All right, so for this one here, we're going to do a beginner tutorial. So what we're building is a chess set. First thing we want to do, of course, is make sure we set our project. Actually, no, make sure we go to project, file, project window, tell it where you want to save it, and so on and so forth. Use the defaults. Give it a name. That way, Maya knows that we're working out of a specific folder. Okay. Then we're going to find an image of a chess set, and once you have one, all you have to do is go to create and do a free image plane. Click there, and then hit attribute editor, and right here, image name, click here, and that image should be in your source images folder. Just double click, and there we go. I have an image of all my different chess pieces. Okay, I'm going to hit W to activate the move tool. I'm going to move this because I'm going to start with the pawn, and I might go into the front view here by hitting space. Right, hit space to show all views, then put your mouse over the front view and hit space again. And that is how we're going to place the pawn. We want it to be on, let me change the background here. We want it to be sitting on this thicker line here, which represents the floor, which is this grid line right here. Okay. Just quickly for navigation, if you hold Alt and left mouse drag, you rotate. If you hold Alt and middle mouse drag, you pan. And if you hold Alt and right mouse button, you will zoom. You can also zoom by just scrolling the mouse wheel. Okay, so that is how we navigate in Maya. We just hold Alt and then we do one of the three mouse buttons. Okay, so if I hit space and then space again with my mouse over here, just want to make sure that my pawn is more or less symmetrically lined up. So I'm just going to slide that over, just make sure. Don't worry about being perfect. Get it close enough and that should be good. Okay, so now we've positioned this. Next thing you want to do is just hit space again, put your mouse over the perspective view, hit space. I'm going to take this and I'm going to slide it way back here. Now, the reason I do that is just because I'm going to build the pawn right in this spot, and I don't want this plane intersecting with it. So I'm just going to slide it, and notice when I slide it on this axis, right, the z-axis, which is the front axis, you notice that it doesn't change size in the orthographic view. Okay, these three views, the top, the front, and the side, are orthographic views, meaning they don't have any perspective distortion. So as things get further away from you, they don't get any smaller like they do in the perspective. In the perspective view, if I move it back, it's shrinking as it gets further away. But here in the orthographic front view, it stays the same size. So that puts it well out of the way for me to work. And if I click on channel box right here, and down here where it says layers, if I hit this button right here, it's going to put that image in a layer. If I hit V, that's your visibility. You can turn it off. But also what we're going to do is make it unselectable. So right now, if I click on it, I can select it. And if I'm modeling and I click it by mistake, that might become annoying. So there's a third box right here. If I click it once, you get a T. If I click it again, you get an R, which stands for referenced. So now if I deselect it and click on it again, I cannot select it. Okay, that just gets it out of the way and it's not going to cause any issues. Okay, so to build this pawn, what we're going to start with is a sphere. Now, the main views we're going to be using here are the front view and the perspective view. I really don't need the side view and the top view, at least initially. So I'm going to come up here to any one of these and go to panels, go to layouts, and we'll do two panes side by side. That's going to put them side by side, and then this one by default chose the top as the other panel. So I'm going to go here to panels, orthographic, and front. So now I see the front view and the perspective view, and that's really all I need for this particular part right here. Okay, so right up here in the poly modeling shelf, we have a sphere. So we're going to click on that sphere. Oh, mine is set to, let me just turn this off because that's not the default. Okay, let's try that again. We're going to click on that and it's going to put a sphere on the grid here. Okay. Now, if we, here in the channel box, we have the name of the sphere, which is pSphere 1. We're just going to call this one pawn because that's the pawn. And then if we come down here to the inputs, click on polysphere, we're going to get the default sort of settings for that. If we click on height baseline and then middle mouse drag left and right in the viewport, all that does is, see if I have my move tool on by hitting W, all that does is it shifts the relative position of the sphere. So if I go here, you see that the pivot point is now at the top of the sphere. Honestly, it doesn't really matter in this case. I'm just going to leave it at the default, which is 0. The radius just represents, if you click on radius and middle mouse drag left and right in the viewport, it just sizes it up or down. And then the subdivisions axis. Again, if we click on the words and then middle mouse drag here in the viewport, you can increase or decrease the subdivisions. Okay, now we don't want to start with too many subdivisions here, so let's go to, let's try 18 maybe. What we want is an even number that is divisible by 4, which, you know what, let's stay at 20, because that's just going to make it easy where we have a perfect half going this way and a perfect half going that way. Let's just stay at 20. Alternatively, you could go to 16, which, you know, may be fine. Let's just stay with 20. We'll keep it a decent resolution. And then the subdivision, the height, same thing. You can click on it and middle mouse drag left and right just to decrease how much geometry you have there. 12 looks like it's pretty good. Okay, so that gives us a total of 240 faces. Now, if you don't have these statistics, these numbers here, all you got to do is go to display, heads up display, and turn on poly count. And then you'll be able to see all the statistics of the objects. The first column here represents the entire scene, how many of each of these vertices, edges, faces, triangles, and UVs there are in the scene. The second column is how many in the selected object, and then if we're moving around vertices and stuff, then it'll tell you how many vertices or edges or whatever are selected. Okay, so now we have our sphere. What we're going to do is W for move tool, and we're going to slide this up. Now, you see that this is now covering up the image in the background. So if I hit the number 4 on the keyboard, it's going to make it wireframe, but notice that the image in the back stays visible. Okay, so now what we can do is we can zoom in. Again, Alt right mouse button zooms in and out. If you scrub it left and right, and we can hit R to get our scale tool, which scales up and down the object. If we grab one axis, it scales on a single axis. If we grab this middle box, it scales uniformly and keeps it a sphere. So it's very important that you remember to do that. If you start scaling like this, you can see now we are distorting the sphere to where it's no longer perfectly round. Okay, so we got to make sure that we keep it round. So W to move, and I'm just going to move on this axis because I don't want to deviate from my center line here. So I'm going to move this up, R for scale, and scale this down to about the size that the image is. Don't worry about being perfect, just get it close enough. Okay, so that's now put that in the correct position. So next thing we want to do is start building out the rest of this. Okay, so right click, hold down the right click, go to face. And if we drag a selection around these faces right here, what's happening is that it's selecting all those faces. Okay, so now if we make sure you've hit W for your move tool, and then if you hold down shift, and I'm going to drag on this green arrow because I only want to go straight down. I don't want to go off to the side like this, right? So if I hold shift and drag this down, and maybe just R for scale and scale from that center box a little bit. Maybe I went too far, so I'm going to drag back up just on that arrow. Okay, so I'm just creating that little connection between the top of the pawn and then this part right here. Okay, another thing we might want to do is that these faces, because they were the bottom of a sphere, are curved, as you can see. So if we go to R for scale and grab the green box and just drag it downwards until it can't go any further, it's going to flatten those out. Okay, then I can hit W for move and grab this arrow here, slide this up a little bit. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, we're going to do the same thing again. Hold shift and drag on that arrow straight down. And we want to line it up with about the corner of this part right here as it comes down and then turns. Right, that corner is about where we want to be. R for scale, grab the middle box and scale that out till it hits about that corner. W for your move tool, hold down shift and click on that arrow, drag down to about here or so. R for scale, grab the middle box, scale it in. W for move tool, hold shift, drag this down. Make sure you're not holding shift when you're doing the scaling. So R for scale, and don't hold shift, just scale in, just click the middle box and drag to the left. Right, and we want this to shrink down till it's about, till the width of this is about the size of this beginning of this shaft here. Okay, so W for remove tool. We're just going to keep doing the same thing over and over again. Okay, now right here you can see we have a curve here, and what we could try to do is hold shift, drag down a little bit, maybe do a little scaling, then W, drag, shift and drag down and do a little scaling, doing it bit by bit. But that's kind of an inefficient way to do it. And if you want to get that curve nice and smooth, that might not work too well. So what we're going to do is we're going to just block it out first and we'll refine it later. So if I, again, W for move tool, hold shift and drag this down on that arrow to right about there where it starts to change direction and go the other way. So right in here somewhere. R for scale, grab the middle box and scale that in. Okay, just a bit. Then W for your move tool, hold shift, drag this down to right about in here somewhere. R for your scale tool, grab the middle box and scale that out to about there. Okay, and again, you can see that I'm not exactly perfect with the image, and that's okay. Doesn't need to be. Okay, so, and we're going to keep going, then we'll come back and refine it. You can see what we're getting right here. Okay, so again, what we're going to do is W for your move tool, hold shift, drag it down just a little bit here, and R for scale, scale this out to here. W, shift, drag this down to about here. R, grab the middle box, scale out to about there somewhere. Okay, I'm using this side to align because this side is not quite on there, so this side works fine. Okay, and you can see I've maintained my circular shape. If the thing is sort of squashed like this, that you've probably been scaling on a single axis, you might want to undo back a little bit here. Okay, so if we grab hit W, hold down, hold shift, grab this arrow, drag down to about in line with where we start to turn right here. So maybe right in here. R for scale, grab the middle box, scale this out to about there. W for move, hold shift, drag this down to about here. R for scale, grab the middle box, scale that in, maybe move it up a little bit, something like that. W for move, shift and drag this down about here. R for scale, hit the box in the middle here, scale that out. W for your move tool, shift, drag this down to about here. R for scale, grab the middle box, scale that in. W for move, shift, drag down to about the floor here. R for scale, grab the middle box and scale that in right there. Okay, we want to give it a nice rounded bottom. Okay, so this is what we have right here. Not bad, right? But still very kind of blocky and not quite refined yet. If we right click and go to object mode, so just hold the right click, go to object mode, that puts it in object mode. If we hit 3, it's going to smooth it out, but you can see that it kind of just, it looks like it's melting. It's not really looking like it's detailed. So if I select it again and hit 1 and then right click, and this time I'm going to go to edge, I want to be in edge mode. We want to start doing a little bit of refining here. So there's a multi-cut tool here, which is basically a knife tool. Other way to get to it is shift and right click, right? So hold down shift and right click, and multi-cut is right there. Just move your mouse over the top of it and release the mouse, and it puts you in multi-cut mode. Now what we want to do here is cut entire edge loops, right? We could just cut it edge by edge like this, but that's not going to be very even. It's really hard. You can see that this line is kind of going up and down here. But what we want is a nice even cut all the way around. So I'm just going to hit delete a couple times till those go away. And I'm going to hold down control, and you can see when I hover my mouse over an edge, it wants to cut in an entire loop of edges. Okay. So what we're going to do is just hold control and then middle mouse click. So click with the middle mouse, and what that does is it forces it to cut it exactly halfway along the edge. Okay, hit W to get out of that tool, and then double click that new edge loop that we just made. Hit W to get your move tool and grab the up arrow or move it up, or you could just hit R for scale and scale from that middle box to widen this. Typically, I'll do a combination of both. I might scale and then move. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing again, multi-cut. Hold control, middle mouse click there, do another one here, middle mouse click. Okay, then we can double click one of these, scale, and maybe do a little move. So scale is R, move is W. Maybe I'll move it up on this axis. Double click the one down here, maybe scale this one out. Again, I'm using the middle box. Double click this one to scale it out. What I want to create is just a really nice curve coming down to here, which looks like we got that. Okay, now on the underside of the pawn here, looks like maybe it goes in a little bit. So what I could do is right in here, get the multi-cut again, hold control, middle mouse click. Okay, hit W to get out of that tool, double click this new edge loop, and right in here we might, pull it up a little bit. Could even scale it in, grab the middle box, scale that in just a bit. Okay, and maybe we need to refine it some more. So this time I'll get the multi-cut by shift right click, go to multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click, W, double click that, maybe move it up a little bit, maybe scale it in a little bit. Okay, so you can switch between viewports to work in. You know what, maybe let's do this one. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click, and hit W to get out of that tool. Double click this edge loop, and maybe let's just pull that one up, and double click this one and adjust it a little bit as well. Okay, we got that nice curve underneath there. Okay, now this section here, we'll do another multi-cut. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click, then hit W to get out of that tool and double click that new edge loop. Want to give it a slight bulge there, so I'm going to hit R for scale, click the middle box and scale out like that. Just a little bit, right? We don't want that to be a flat surface. We want to give it some rounding here. Okay, moving down here. This is just two straight sections, which doesn't look very good. So shift right click, multi-cut. Again, hold control, middle mouse click. It's going to split it straight down the center. W to get out of the multi-cut tool, double click that new edge loop. Or you can hit R for scale, grab the middle box, scale that in just to start to create a little bit of curve there. Let's do the same down here. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click. This time I hit R to get out of the tool. You can hit Q, W, E, or R to get out of the tool. Double click, then hold, grab the middle box and scale that in. Okay, now you can see we're starting to make this nice curve. Let's refine it a little bit more with a few more multi-cuts. So shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click. And I'm still holding control. I'm going to middle mouse click here, middle mouse click, and middle mouse click. So it's going to add a bunch of edge loops really quickly. Hit R to get out of that tool. Double click that edge loop, grab the middle box, scale that in. Okay, grab this one here, scale that in as well from the middle box. Grab this one, scale that in, and grab the bottom one, double click it, and scale that in. Okay, so we now have a nice distribution of geometry there. Okay. Now over here, looks like we have a little bump detail here. So what we're going to do is shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, and middle mouse click right here. W to get out of the tool, double click that new edge loop and just pull it up. It's going to create a little bulge right there. Okay, and we're going to do the same here. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click. And W to get out of this, double click it. Let's go R for scale, and we're just going to scale this out just a little bit there. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. Okay. And then over here, you can see this is supposed to be curved, but it's just really flat right now. So again, shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click. R to get out of the tool, double click the edge loop, grab the middle box and scale this outward, right? You can see how we are, we are trying to make that curve. So I'm going to grab that middle box, scale this out. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click here and middle mouse click there. Excuse me. Hit R to get out of the tool, double click that top new edge loop, grab the middle box, scale it out. Double click this bottom edge loop here, grab the middle box and scale it out. Okay, we're just scaling enough to get a nice curve going here. Let's do the same over here. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click, R to get out of multi-cut, double click the edge loop. And we want to scale this from the middle box as well. Okay. And let's do a couple more. Shift right click, multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click here and middle mouse click there. R to get out of that tool, double click, grab the middle box and scale that out a little bit. Grab this, double click this edge loop here and scale that one out a bit just to bulge it out a little bit. Maybe grab this one here, scale it out, or you can even move it down a little bit. See what works. Maybe take this one and move it up and scale it. So move is W, scale is R. Grab this one, W, and I'm just going to slide it up. Just try to even out the geometry, right? So over here, double click. Maybe I'll move this one up a little bit. Maybe I'll scale it down from the center. Okay, we're just spreading them out so they're not too close to each other, which can cause issues. So something like that. Okay, there we go. It looks pretty good. Okay, so we're just doing the same thing over and over again, right? This is a very repetitive process. So shift right click, multi-cut, hold control and middle mouse click there and middle mouse click here. R to get out of multi-cut, double click that new edge loop, grab the middle box and scale this out. And in this case, hit W. We might also move it up a little bit. Double click this edge loop here. R for scale, grab the middle box and scale this out. And I might hit W and just start to move this down a bit. Okay, we're just creating that nice base. Now, if we right click, go to object mode and then hit 3, you see we're getting something pretty nice there. We probably want to tighten this crease a little bit. It's a little soft. So hit select this thing again and hit 1 to get out of that mode. And right click, go to edge, double click this edge here in the crease. And then we can shift right click and go to bevel edge. And I'm going to add a segment. So I'm going to click on the word segment and drag to the right until it turns to a 2. And then on the fraction, I'm going to click on the word fraction and then drag to the left to make it a little bit smaller. So what it does, it creates 3 really tight edges here. So if I right click, go to object mode and then hit 3, you can see how that's quite a bit crisper. Okay, we could probably do the same up here, right in this place, right where that bulge is starting. So right click, go to edge, double click this edge, shift right click, go to bevel edge. We're going to decrease the fraction, click on that word fraction and drag to the left. We're going to click on the word segments and drag to the right till we get to 2 segments. So here we're just going to make it decently tight. So something like that, pick whatever numbers might work for you. And if we right click, go to object mode and then hit 3, you can see that gives us a nice crisp edge there. Okay, hit 1 to get out of smooth mode. And we're going to work on the bottom here a little bit real quick. So shift right click, go to multi-cut, hold control, middle mouse click right here, and R to get out of that, double click that edge and scale this out, and maybe we can move it down as well, right? If we're looking here, right? I'm modeling out of both viewports because use whichever is easiest at that moment. So if I double click here, grab R and just scale out from the middle box here. Okay, and then this here is actually the base that everything sits on. So we're just going to define this corner a little bit. So in edge mode, right, double click that edge, shift right click, go to bevel edge. We want again 2 segments, so click on segment, drag to the right, and then click on fraction and drag to the left to make it smaller, something like that. And again, if we go to object mode, then hit 3, you'll see we have a nice, more defined base for our chess piece. Okay, so just a few more things to do. Right in here, so right click edge mode. If you double click this one, double click, and then if you hold shift and then double click this one, we can select multiple edge loops. Then you shift right click, go to bevel edge. And we're going to click on fraction and drag to the left. We want to keep this one decently large, so we're going to go a little higher, but we're going to do the 2 segments again. And so the closer those are, the sharper that corner is. We don't really want a sharp corner, so we're going to do something like that. And again, object mode and hit 3, and we can see that we get a nice crease right there that is not too tight. And if we move up to here, we want to tighten up a little bit here in the neck. So what I'm going to do actually is right click, go to edge, double click this one here. I'm going to grab it with a W and move it down a little bit, and then hit R and then scale from the center box a little bit just to move it closer. I'm going to double click the one below there, grab that middle box and scale it in, and maybe move it up a little bit. Okay, so with this one selected, I'm going to shift right click, go to bevel edge, click on segments, drag to the right once, click on fraction, maybe drop it down just a hair so it's not so big. So if we hit 3, let's go to object mode and click off of there. You can see we get a pretty nice crisp edge there. Okay, and let's see if I go to edge and just double click this one. Maybe I'll scale this one out. R for scale, just scale it out of here. Maybe want to round that off more. Right click, object mode, hit 3, and there we go. So I would say that our pawn is pretty much done here. Okay, we got a nice detailed pawn, as detailed as a pawn could be. It's not really a whole lot in a pawn, but that should be good to get us a completed pawn. Okay, now the last thing we got to do, since we've established this as the size that we want, you'll notice that because I scaled my initial sphere and moved it, I have values in here. So what I'm going to do is just come up here to this snowflake right here that's in the poly modeling tab here. Just click on that. It's going to freeze transformations. Basically, it's going to tell this thing that this is its new default position. The other thing we want to do is that the pivot point is still at the center of the initial sphere. Actually, I'm gonna hit 1 just to get out of smooth mode. The pivot point is way up here. Really with some stuff like this, we want the pivot point to be down at the bottom. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just rotate till I can see this bottom point. I'm going to hold D and V, and with my middle mouse button, if I just click and drag with my middle mouse button, it's going to move that pivot point. And then when I get to my center point here, it's going to snap to it, and I can release D and V, and that's now moved the pivot point to the base of this object. So if I hit E for rotate, you can see it's going to rotate from that point, not from up in the head there. Okay, so that's just something that you might want to do. And then if we're in the channel box here, if you look at the inputs, you can see that we got a whole bunch of things. This is Maya keeping track of all the operations that we did to create this object. And we don't really need this. This is called the history. We don't really need it. It doesn't really do us any good at this point. But what it does is it does take up, you know, a larger amount of system memory just to hold all that information, or in the file, it makes the file unnecessarily bigger than it needs to be. And in fact, if I go in here and just show you the how it all looks is as a node setup. Oops, where'd everything go? There we go. So these are all the different history nodes in here, right? Extruding faces. We have where the cuts. Poly split is us cutting the different things. So you can see this is a big network of nodes that are connected to the main object, which is here. And this is just unnecessary and just taking up a bunch of space for no reason. So what we can do is with the pawn selected, if we click on this one here, this little clock looking thing with the X, if we click that, that's delete history. So if we delete history, all that is now gone. And what you'll notice if I go back to that view is that now, instead of all those hundreds of nodes, we're down to 3 nodes, right? This is the lightest that this object can be. Okay, so that makes things easier. And then one last thing is, as you can see, this looks weird. It's all faceted and funny. That's because polygons have normals, which can sometimes harden edges. So if we click on the object and we're going to go to, where is it here? Mesh display, and come down to here and click on soften edge. Now, if you don't have a mesh display here, make sure that this is set to modeling. If it's set to something else, you see that mesh display is not there. But so just go here, click on modeling. That's the default one. It should be there by default. But if it isn't, just make sure you click here, select modeling, mesh display, and soften edge, right? And if you click off of it, you'll see that it looks a lot smoother. Now, if you select it, you'll see that it's created more history here because we just softened the edge, so polysoft edge. So again, just come in here and hit delete history. And now that's a very clean object that is ready to go. Let's move on to our rook here. So I'm going to make sure I take these, and I just want to put the rook centered to the world. So I'm just going to select the pawn and the background image and just more or less center that rook to the world, and then just lock the image so that now I can't select it. Okay, first things, duplicate the pawn, Control D, move this over. Let's go ahead and rename this rook. Okay, and I could actually just zero this out and it should line back up there. And just scale this up more or less to what I expect it to be. Okay, so face mode. I'm going to select everything. Let's go down to here. Delete. And actually, you know what? I might go back in object mode and scale down just a little bit. I think I need to just move things over. Actually, not this one. Move things over just a bit. Maybe there. Okay. Oh, right. Right about there's good. Yep. So about there. All right. So now that we have this set, I can go here. Oh, let's lock this again. Go into edge mode and double click that top ring. I'm going to extrude up just a tiny extrusion like that. Then I'm going to extrude again to about halfway up this little ring here. Scale out. W, shift, extrude. Right, so to extrude again is just shift and drag. So let's get this one, just to move it up a little bit. I need to round it off, so I can shift right click, bevel edge. Let's do 2 segments, and that should give us That's pretty good, I think. Okay, if I need to, I can just double click and drag an edge loop myself. So something like that. Okay, so let's double click the top one again. Move tool, hold shift and drag all the way to the top here. Scale it down. Okay, now there's a little bump out there. So W, shift and drag up a little bit. Get your scale tool, scale from the center. W, shift and drag. Scale, scale out. Maybe about there. W, shift and drag. About here. Scale out to there. W, shift and drag. And let's again shift and drag another one. Small scale extrusion. Let's bring this in here. W, shift and drag up a little bit there, then shift and drag up all the way to the top, and then scale this out. Okay. Right, so there we go, and now we are up here at the top. Just get your scale tool, hold shift, and scale from the center. Then switch to your move tool, hold shift, drag down, and scale inward. We want to make this inner wall level with this outer wall here. I mean, not level, but parallel, more or less. I mean, doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so say we like it there, and maybe we just scale down a little bit more to something like that. Then scale tool, shift and scale in. Okay, and then shift right click, fill hole. Go into face mode, click on the face, shift right click, poke face. And then just to lower the poly count, go into edge mode, and I'm going to select every second edge. This one. Select every second edge here. And there, and just control backspace. Or just backspace. I don't think control matters in this instance. Okay, so now we have that top closed off. Okay, now next thing we want to do is just do some bevels. So right in here, double click this edge loop here, shift right click bevel edge. And actually, before I do that, I'm going to go to edit mesh. And I'm going to go bevel and then go in the option box. And since I almost always have two segments in here, I'm just going to set it to 2 segments. And then when I hit bevel, it'll always start with 2 segments. Now I can just lower the fraction. I want this to be pretty tight. And let's do the same up here. Just double click, shift right click, bevel edge. And I'm just going to lower that fraction. If it's moving too fast, it's oversensitive, just hold control and it'll slow down. So maybe something like that. Maybe I go to multi-cut. Oops. Shift right click, multi-cut. I want to control and middle mouse click to cut dead center. Scale this in a little bit, just put a little curve in there. Maybe I'll move it up a little bit. And I can even bevel it, right? That's going to give me a nice rounded shape there. Then these two here, maybe this one, and shift double click that one, right? Let's bevel those. Oh, I missed one. Bevel those. And, you know, that might be fine there. And maybe this one, edge mode, maybe this one, bevel edge, and lower this. Okay. Now, I want this edge loop in here. You can see that on the inside, it's about this level. I want one at the same, more or less the same level on the outside. So shift right click, go to multi-cut. And I'm going to hold control, making sure I'm cutting on the outside edge. Now, I don't want to cut inside. But if you see, I want to make it level with that line there. So I'm holding control and I'm just writing on this edge right here. And right about when they're level, I'm just going to left mouse button click. Okay, so that'll cut them about the same level. I'm going to hit Q to get out of that tool. And then I'm going to, let's see, we can select
like this. That way, if we delete it, you can see that it just deletes. Now, you can do 2 of these per gap, and then you'll just have 4, or you can do 1, skip the next one. So, let's go around on the inside, skip 1. Just depends on how many of those you want in there. And let's do the top. Just holding shift and clicking with the left mouse button. Then we do the outside. Okay, there, and then hit delete. Okay, so I don't know if that's it's fine, I guess, if you like it like that. Or again, the other way is just to let's do 2 at a time here. So let's delete that one, skip to no, you know what I deleted the wrong side. I'm looking at where's my z-axis? This way. So this is the front. So I actually start on the side there. So yeah, so this is the way I wanted to do it here. So I'm going to do them at 90 degrees to each other. So I might delete those 2 and then go 90 degrees away, which is these 2, 90 degrees from there, which is these 2, and 90 degrees. Actually, no, that's not. It's these 2. Well, 180 from there is here. And then 90 degrees would be here. There we go. And make sure you're not selecting other stuff by mistake, like I have done here, because you don't want to delete faces that you don't mean to delete. Okay, so we delete, right? It's entirely up to you how many of those you want. Let's try a different configuration here. Maybe let's go back to none of them. Let's do, we can do 1 and then skip 2 before we skip 1, but let's skip 2 and do 1, skip 2, do 1. There we go. See if the numbers will work out. Nope, they will not. So that one's not going to work. Okay, so anyway, let's keep it simple here. Let's just, I'm going to do 2. Then I'm going to go 90 degrees from that and do 2. Yeah, you could play with it. Feel free to do it however you like. Okay, and again, careful of selecting stuff that's not supposed to be selected. Just control and drag over it like that. And you can see I've actually selected a bunch, but I'll fix that here in a sec. I just hit 4 to show me the wireframe, and control drag over the whole thing right up to about the top there. So I know there's nothing that shouldn't be selected below there. And then anywhere on the, hit 5 or actually 6. You can select that one. So I'm going to look around, make sure that I did not deselect, that I did not select anything that wasn't supposed to be selected. And then just hit delete. Okay, so we'll keep it simple. We'll just do the 4 like that at 90 degrees from each other. So now we just got to fill this in here. Now the easy way to do it is go into edge mode. Just double click an entire loop. Deselect, so control click this one here and this one here. So now we got edges matching each other, and then shift right click, go to bridge, and it's going to close that off. So we're going to double click again, control click here, control click here. Now since we just did a bridge, if we hit G, it's going to repeat that. So double click, control click here, hit G, double click, control click here and there, and then hit G, and it'll redo it. Now, if we smooth it, you can see that everything else looks fine, but obviously these kind of collapse and don't look quite as good. So what we need to do is add some support geometry to make them a little tighter. So what we can actually do is, let's start with some bevels like this one right here. I'm going to bevel this, And let's see here. So we got to be careful with our bevels here because they can put artifacts in the circular, in the sides of the rook here. But let me see if I double click here all the way around. I'm just shift double clicking and then run a bevel. Maybe that won't be a good choice right here. So, let's just double click the bottom one and just do a bevel here. And I'm going to lower the fraction just to harden up that edge there. So when I smooth it, you can see it gets nice and crisp. Now, as for these here, the easy way to do it is just shift right click, go to multi-cut. And when I'm going to control, and I'm going to, pretty close to the edge, but not super, super close. So click one there, again, control and left mouse button, and then control left mouse button right there, right? And let's see what that just did. If I hit 3, you can see that it's actually hardened the inner and outer circle edges, but we still have these going across this way. And the way we can harden those is, again, shift right click, go to multi-cut. We're going to just cut about here, and the same about here. Maybe there. You want to get them kind of similar. You don't need to make them exact, but get them similar. Let's see what that did. So that hardened there. Now we still have a roundedness here, and that's because, and it actually kind of looks good. So if you want to keep it like that, leave it like that. But if you want to harden it up, you can just do the same thing here and about here and right in there and down here. Just control clicking. Okay, so now if we smooth it, we get that. Now we do get a little bit of that artifacting in there, but it shouldn't be too bad. Let's see what happens if we multi-cut here. And it actually makes it worse. So that's just one of the things with trying to preserve detail in certain areas. You can run into issues. So I'm going to undo that last one there. So if you don't like the way this looks, maybe you just skip that last multi-cut. So if I just undo and get rid of those, and it should be okay like that. Okay, so we can call this one done and just select it, hit 1 to unsmooth it. I am going to freeze transformations, the old snowflake here, and then as you can see all this history, I need to delete history. And I need to also, you can see the faceting here, I need to go to mesh display and soften edge, click on here. Now if you want, what you can do is go to mesh display, go to soften edge, except don't click it, hold control and shift and then click it, and notice that I get the icon right here. Sorry. So if you don't want to go to the menu every time, if you control shift click anything in any of the menus, it's going to pop up on whatever shelf is open. So if I'm in my animation shelf, it'll pop up there. If I'm at poly modeling shelf, it'll pop up in there. Okay, so that one's done. And what I can do, zoom out here, unlock my layer with the I'm just going to double click on the layer and call this image, I guess, and hit save. Then I can select both of these, shift click the background image, and then just move it over so we can get to the king and try to center that king more or less, something like that, and then lock the image again. Okay, make sure you save your file because it'll, you don't want things crashing on you. All right, now the king is very close in shape to the pawn, just bigger and sort of stretched out more. So I'm just going to select the pawn, control D, and slide this over. Just go ahead and put a 0 in here. Okay. And I'm going to start to scale it up until I'm more or less matching the king there. Yeah, something like that. Now I don't need the top part of the circle and then this little shelf here, because the king is a little bit different. So what I can do is just go into face mode and go down, select down to about here and delete. Okay. Then what I can also do is, we can do this in vertex or edge. Let's do this in vertex. I'm going to select the first 2 rows of vertices here. And I'm going to hit B. And you'll see that my mesh as the wireframe turns kind of yellow. Okay. Soft selection, just a way to select the verts that you select, you move at 100%, and then anything below that has a fall off value. So they also move, but at a lesser value the further away they get from the selected ones. Now, the fact that it's yellow means that my influence is going too far. If I hit W and move, you can see it's moving the whole pawn, the whole king. But that's not what I want. I want it to just move the part of the neck here. So if I hold down B and middle mouse drag to the right, you can see that I can increase. So if I go left, it decreases. If I go right, it increases. And I'm going to go maybe to about there. You see that at where it's the least most influence, it's black, basically. So there might be some movement in there, but not much. Now, if I drag this up, you can see that it's also moving some of these parts right here. So if I drag this up to about here, that more or less gets us to the shape that we want. I actually don't even have to adjust that. Now you can if you want to adjust it, but I think for me, I think that's fine. And then to turn this off, just hit B to turn it off. Let's go to edge mode and let's start, double click that and let's start building this stuff here. Shift and drag about halfway up this curve here. Scale this out. W, shift and drag to about there. Get your scale this in. Okay, and if we want to right now, we just double click this edge in the middle and do a bevel edge and maybe increase that fraction. Okay, and then maybe I'll grab this one, get my scale it out more, grab this one, scale that out more, grab this one, scale that out more so it matches a little bit better. Maybe move this down, something like that. Okay, double click the top one and scaled about maybe here. And then, I'm sorry, not scale, but shift drag, the move tool. Then here we scale to about there, and we can even get the multi-cut and cut something in about there with control and maybe scale that out to here. Okay, then we go back to the top. W for your move tool, hold shift, just scale one straight extrusion to there, right, to about there. Then shift drag again to there. Scale tool, scale it out. W, shift drag it up to there, scale it in. Okay, double click this one. We can bevel again and increase the fraction. Something like that. Maybe scale this one out. Okay, so I'm hoping you're getting the idea now. We are really just doing the same things over and over again. Okay, then double click the top again. And it looks like it goes up and then it starts to curve. So I'm going to shift drag up to about there and then shift drag again all the way to the top in line with this corner and scale that out to about there. Okay. Then again, move tool, shift and drag to about here where the top of this arc is and scale this down. I'm going to scale to about there. Okay, and let's go ahead, just double click this edge loop here and bevel that. And that's obviously way too big of a bevel. So I can just bring down the fraction and I can hold control to slow it down. Maybe something like that. Okay, so like that. And I might want to grab these. I just shift, double click all those three and just move them up a little bit just to line it up a little better. Okay, then shift right click, multi-cut. I'm going to control and middle mouse click to put one in the center. And I'm going to scale that one out and maybe also move it upward just to start to build that arc there. Shift right click again, multi-cut, control middle mouse there. Take this one, maybe pull it up. And this one here, let's pull that one up as well. Something like that. Okay, and then it looks like, so if I double click this edge loop here, it looks like there's just another small extrusion here to about here, and then another one which is about to about there. So shift drag twice, and then for this one, just scale this in to say there, and we can actually shift right click, multi-cut, and control middle mouse click, and right there, scale this out. Maybe let's move it up a little bit. There we go. And double click this, get your scale tool and shift scale it inward. So we're just creating a flat spot right here. Right, so now what we can do to get rid of this hole is fill the hole. So double click the edges, shift right click, fill hole. Okay, then go to face mode, select that face, shift right click, and poke face. Okay, so again, that just caps that off so we don't have a hole sitting there. And again, go to edge mode, right click, go to edge mode, click on the on an edge and skip one, and so on all the way around. Skip, and did I do that wrong? I think I did something wrong. Hold on. Yep, I skipped 2 over there. So let's go back, and this is where it should be. Here we go. Okay, and just click all around and control backspace. And these basically just become 4-sided, even though they're not the nicest 4-sided polygons. Okay, so now we have our king blocked out. Now we can start beveling edges. So I might just shift and double click all the edges that I want to have more or less the same amount of bevel. Not that one. Oops. So this one. Okay. And shift right click bevel edge. And let's lower the fraction. 2 segments as always. So something like that. And then let's see, where else do we want to put a little something? Maybe I shift right click multi-cut and middle mouse, control middle mouse click there. Double click, get your move tool and just scale this down just to round out the bottom of it a little bit more. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And we can actually do the same. Shift right click multi-cut, control middle mouse click. Double click it, move tool, just pull it upward like this. It's going to round that out a little bit more for us. Again, multi-cut, shift right click, middle mouse click with control, and just double click and then move this up. Okay, and maybe multi-cut again, and this one I'm just going to cut here, but I'm going to grab it and maybe scale it out just a hair. Okay, that's going to give us a nice curve there. Everything else looks fine. Let's go to object mode and hit 3 and see how things are looking. It looks pretty good. Okay, now we have to do this little cross up here. And instead of trying to pull it out of the main structure, actually, before we do that, select this, hit 1 to unsmooth, go into edge mode, double click, shift right click, bevel edge. Let's go ahead and bevel this, make it pretty tight. Okay, so now we have that looking pretty good. Okay, so the cross, instead of trying to, pull it out and sort of make it out of the existing geometry, I'm just going to make new geometry. It's just a flat cross. And so I'm going to start with a cube. So cube, I'm going to move this cube up here. And I'm going to scale it down till it's sort of the size of the center part of the cross. Maybe go up. Notice I didn't go left or right because this is perfectly sitting centered to where the king is. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. We're going to start by thinning it out a little bit this way from the side, right? From the front, we leave it the same square size, but from the side, we want to make it a little bit thinner. Okay, so along the x-axis, the red axis, we want to thin it out. Well, actually, no, along the z-axis, which is the blue one. We want to use that to narrow it down a little bit. Then what we're going to do is grab, let's grab these two opposite each other, Control E, and if we click and drag on thickness, we can get them to move out. Now we want to maintain the same amount. We're going to do top and bottom, but we have to do them separately so they don't extrude together. So Control E, and if you hold Control, we're just going to go out. Just type in, let's say 0.01 in my case, because I want it to be pretty small. Then I'm going to select these two, Control E, and do another thickness of 0.01. Okay, you can see that those are now exactly the same. Okay, now the reason I do that is in certain situations I need the extrusions to be exactly the same. You could also eyeball it. I mean, it's not really that big a deal, but I just want to let you know that you have the ability to make extrusions that are very precise according to what it is that you're looking for. Okay, now that those two are selected, now you can select these two because they're not neighbors anymore. You don't have to worry about them sticking together. And do another Control E, and this time drag on the blue axis, right? On the arrow, not the box, but the arrow. Drag all the way until we get to the edge of the cross on whatever side you're using. Okay, so then we have that. Now, I don't think, yeah, it's not going to work right. Okay, so there we go. And then I'm just going to switch to my scale tool. Shortcut is R. And I'm going to, let's just start with this side and this side. The side ones, I'm going to just scale upward on the y-axis here until they more or less approximate the shape I want. And then the top and the bottom, same thing. And if you can't see it, just hit 4 and you can see the wireframe, and shift click on the bottom. And then you can hit 6 when you've got it. And I'm going to scale this way on the top and bottom. Something like that. Okay, so now we have the basic shape of the cross. Let's add some support edges in here. So shift right click, go to multi-cut. And if you hold control and shift, you can see now it's just going to snap to very specific percentages. So let's go 80, and over here 80, and over here 80, and then also over here 80. Okay, that just puts it in exactly the same space. So again, if you're looking to be the same all the way around, that's how you do that. So again, if we hold Control Shift, let's go 20 from here, let's go 20 here, and 20 here, and 20% there. Okay, those are just support edges, going to help hold the structure of the cross a little bit better. Now if we go to edge mode and start double clicking, we want to select all the way around the object here, then shift. I'm just holding shift and double clicking. If it's a single edge, I just click once. But if it's multiple edges that I want to select, I just shift double click, shift double click. Okay, shift double click here, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift double click, shift double click, shift double click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift click, shift double click, shift double click, shift double click, shift double click, shift click, 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 shift click, shift double click, double click. Okay, let's see where we are here, and shift click here, shift double click that one, shift click there, shift click, shift click. And I think we'll need to do shift click, 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 click. Yep, and shift click, 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 and click. I think that's all of them. Then you shift right click, go to bevel edge, 2 segments, and you can make it, don't make it too tight. So I'm going to lower the fraction, but maybe down about 0.4 or so, somewhere in there. Okay, if I go to object mode now and hit 3, you see that I have this shaped cross, right? And that, honestly, that's good enough. And notice that I wanted to just be slightly interpenetrating the main part of the king. So when I smooth the king and smooth the cross, they should still be touching. Because sometimes when you smooth things, they get a little bit smaller, they shrink. So you might find yourself with a little gap between them like this. If that's the case, just move the cross down. Smooth, just select them both, hit 3 to smooth them. Oops. And then move the cross down till it's touching. Okay. Now select them both, hit 1 to unsmooth. Now what we want to do is make them part of the same object. Right now they're 2 separate objects. So if I wanted to pick up this king and move it, I'd have to shift select and then start moving, and that would get old pretty quick. So what I'm going to do is click the king, shift click the cross, and shift right click, go to combine. Okay, now they're part of the same object. Now problem is my pivot points moved from where it was down here at the bottom, the center of the bottom. So if I scroll in here and hold down D and V. So D puts you in pivot mode where you can move the pivot point, and V puts you in snapping mode, in point snapping mode, so you can snap to to points. Now, I don't have to actually click on the thing and move it. It works if I do that. But look, if I put my mouse here and middle mouse drag, you'll see that it's just going to snap to wherever my mouse is. And when I get it to snap to the center there, I release and then release D and V. And now we're back where we want to be. This guy, we're just going to call this king. And like before, we got a mesh display and soften edge. And again, if you put it there, you just control shift click and it'll pop up there. Okay, that softens the edges. Then we have to delete history. And if you've got any kind of numbers in here, just freeze transformations. Okay, so now we have our king and that's ready to go. Okay, moving on to the queen. We are going to unlock the image, select all three of these, shift select the image, and we're going to slide this over until the queen is now centered. Right? And again, the reason I do this instead of just mulling all the way down the line is because I like things to be centered to the world, because when I make new objects, I'm going to make that cube. I know it's also centered and just makes it a little bit more convenient. Okay, so maybe center the queen like that. And that should be good. Then I'm going to click this twice till I get the R to lock the image. Select the king, Control D to duplicate that and slide this over. In fact, we can just put a 0 in here. And what we have to do now is get our scale tool, scale from the center, scale this down. And you can see that we're up to about here. We're pretty much, let's go down a little bit more. We're pretty much exactly the same shape as the king. In fact, we can include this all the way up to here. So now what we have to do, in fact, let's go ahead and rename this right now. We call this queen. Okay. If we go to face mode and just drag a selection, delete everything above this point. So delete, then go into edge mode, double click this edge, get your move tool, go down to about the tips of those spikes on the crown there. Okay, and you might have to scale in as well just to keep it the right shape. There we go. Then in this view, I'm going to shift and scale in to determine the thickness of that crown. Then I'm going to W and shift and drag down. I'm going to go down. You see it starts to pop through here. So just get your scale tool and scale that in. And again, I just want to keep those, somewhat parallel. Doesn't have to be perfect, but keeping them parallel like that. Okay, so if we've selected this and if you've turned on your statistics here, and the way to do that if you haven't turned them on is to go to display, heads up display, and poly count. Right, poly count we'll turn all those on. You know that we have 20 edges selected, so we got a 20-sided cylinder that we basically have here. Now you can see there's a half, kind of like a half sphere sitting inside of that crown, and then another smaller sphere on top. So I'm going to just click on sphere to make a new sphere. And by default, if I click in the inputs, the subdivisions on the axis is 20. So it already has just the right number of edges around the axis. Down here, though, I might go down to 12 just so it's not over, it doesn't have too much geometry. So I'm going to move this up and I'm going to scale it down until it's about the right size. So you can see it's a little small there. So we scale this up maybe to about here. That'll probably work okay. Well, let's go up a little bit more and bring it down some. Yeah, something like that. Okay. So there we have that. So I'm going to Control D to duplicate that. I'm going to move this one up to about here, and then I'm going to scale this down to make the smaller sphere, which is probably about, that'll work right there. So on the first sphere, I'm going to go to face mode, and I'm going to delete half like that. And now the thing that I want to do is make sure that this thicker edge that you see here is about level with that one. So I'm going to go to face mode on the crown, and I'm going to come in here, and you see that thick edge there. And by the way, if your edges aren't thick, just click on the little orange guy in the bottom right corner and go to polygons right here. Turn on highlight border edges and set the edge width to at least 5. hit save. What you'll notice is that it doesn't pop up right away. Just save your file and then right click and pick the top thing, and it'll reload it, and they should be thicker. But anyway, so edge mode, I want to select that one, and I just want to move this up till it's about level, right? And now to maintain the parallel nature of these, I'm just going to scale these out. It doesn't really matter if you do that or not. Okay, so now they're level so that when we bridge across here, it should work. Now, so in order to connect these two, what we have to do is make them one object. So we got to combine them. So select the queen and then shift select the sphere and go to shift right click and combine. Okay, now they're part of the same object. So I go to edge mode, click on one edge, click on the other, and shift right click, do a bridge. So I'll do one, and then I'll just double click one of these thick edges and shift deselect these like we did with the rook. And since we just did a bridge, I'm going to hit G, and it's going to bridge all those together. Now, the reason I did that first one is because sometimes if you need to tell it how it should do the bridges, and if you just select everything on the inside and outside, it may just be slightly twisted. So to avoid that, I just did it like that. Okay, so here we are. Now let's go ahead and think about this smaller sphere. Okay, we need to make an opening in this big sphere to be able to attach the smaller sphere. So I'm going to go to face mode. I'm going to hit 4 to go into wireframe, and I'm going to hold the tab key, and I'm going to click and sort of drag in a circle to select those top faces, release tab, and then hit delete. Okay, so if I hit 6 again to go back to shaded mode, then I'm going to select the smaller sphere. And let's see, for this guy, go to face mode, and we have to say delete these. So the bottom ones. And in fact, we could go up one more level. We can have a nice blend between these two if we want to do that. So now I can select this, shift select that, and again, I'm in object mode, then shift right click and go to combine. So now they become, one object. Then go to edge, double click this one, double click this one. This time we'll just try the bridge without doing one first. Shift right click and bridge. Okay, so there we go. In this case, I'm going to shift right click, go to multi-cut. I'm going to control middle mouse click and just double click the center one and maybe scale it in just to give some transition there, and then shift right click, bevel that, adjust the fraction. So we got a nice blend between the two. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay. Now, to actually make the crown points, what I'm going to do is shift right click, go to multi-cut. I'm going to cut, I don't know, let's see here. I'm going to cut maybe down about here. Okay, and then maybe in here, I'm going to cut about similar distance, and I'm looking at the other view while I do this. And right in there. No, that wasn't it. Maybe I have to get in a little closer. So control, and you got to hover over the edge that you want to cut into, and about there's good. Okay, I'm just matching them across so that they work out. Then I'm going to select every second edge. I'm in edge mode, so just skip one and select, skip, select, skip, select, and so on. All the way around. Okay, I think you should have a total of 10 selected. And I'm just going to drag them downward. Okay, now what you see is that this is supposed to be straight and this curves out there. All you have to do is get your scale tool, scale from the center, and scale until they're straight again. You see how that's now straight, more or less. Okay, good. And now what we're going to do, we want to select all the peaks. So click, shift click, and so on, all the sharp points. And the reason we're doing this, because if we smooth it now, you can see it over smooths, it becomes too soft. So if I shift click on all these, going around, and then shift double click the inside and outside edges, then shift right click bevel edge, and I'm going to lower the fraction just so it's not so big. 2 segments. So about 0.3. So go to object mode, and now if I smooth it, you can see we have a nice sharp pointed crown area there. And I might want to bevel these inside ones. So go to edge mode, double click that one, shift double click this one, and shift right click bevel. And let's lower the fraction here to tighten it up. Hit 3. Perfect. Okay, so now our queen is done. Now, because we did those combining, if I hit move, you see my pivot point is not where I need it to be. Again, I need to bring it back down here. So hold D and V and middle mouse drag and snap that there. Release D and V in the mouse button, and we're back where we need to be. Let's go ahead and mesh display, soften edge, or hit the little shortcut button, right? And then also get rid of all this history, delete history. And then if you have any numbers in here, you could just freeze transformations as well. And this shouldn't be queen 2, it should just be queen. Okay, so there we go. Okay, so the queen is now done. And next we have the bishop. So again, unlock the image. Select all the pieces, shift select the image. Slide this over till the bishop is centered to the thick line, something like that. Click in here twice to lock the image. Now the bishop is kind of closer in shape to the pawn than the queen or the king, so I'm going to select the pawn, control D to duplicate and slide the pawn over. I can zero this out. And let's scale him up here from the center. You can see he's almost actually exactly the same shape. So something like that. Again, I'm not worried about being so perfect because it's not really that important. So face mode, right click, face mode. I'm going to delete all the faces there. Then we can do it in edge or vertex, go to edge, double click. And again, if I hit B to turn on soft selection, and it still remember the settings from last time. So if I start to just drag this up to about there and then hit B to turn it off. And again, if it wasn't on the same settings, just hold down B and middle mouse drag left and right to adjust the settings. And then hit B again to turn it off when you're done. Okay, so now what I am actually noticing is that the top part kind of looks like the queen or the king's top part. Doesn't really look as much like the pawn top part. So, we can borrow pieces from the queen here. So if I duplicate the queen, and just move it off to the side here and go to face, and let's select maybe this much right here. Okay, and then what we can do is just hold shift and drag over the whole thing. It's going to deselect what was selected and select what wasn't. It just inverts your selection essentially. So if I hit delete, now that's deleted. Go to object mode and just set this to 0. And again, it's another reason I like to work with everything at the center, is because if I set any of these pieces to 0, they're going to come to the exact center. So now I know this is lined up. So if I go into face mode or any of the other modes, actually, I can just select everything and just drag it down. And if I hit 4 to be able to see through, and then get my scale tool, scale this down, and maybe move this down, something like that. Okay, so get it to where it looks about right. I'm going to come in this view here, object mode, go into the bishop, go to edge mode actually, edge mode, and I'm just going to move this down. And if I hold V and move this down, I can actually snap it. You can see that it snaps as I move my mouse on the y-axis. It snaps to the bottom of this one. And then if I scale, because obviously I want them to match, or the other way to do it is if I go to face mode and just delete that top row of faces. That way, you're not trying to scale to get it to match perfectly. And then again, to be able to connect these, I need to combine them into a single object. So select them both. You click one and shift select the other one. And then you want to shift right click, go to combine. And then what we can do is just double click that edge loop, double click this edge loop, shift right click and bridge, and that worked out fine. So now we have that top. Okay, so you don't always have to make everything from scratch. I should have taken this ring here. Oh well, it's late now. I mean, I could go back and do it, but it'd probably be more work than just going ahead here. So let's double click here, move tool, shift drag to here, then shift drag again about halfway. Scale it out. W, shift drag to about here, scale it in. Double click that middle edge, shift right click bevel edge. I'm gonna increase the fraction a little bit. Maybe come in here and pull this one down some, and maybe scale it out. Pull this one down. Maybe scale that out. Grab this one, scale that out. Okay, whatever you got to do to make it look the way you want. And then here, again, double click that top one. Shift and drag to about the widest point, maybe about there. Scale that out to here. W, shift and drag to just below that circle. And then scale that down to here. And honestly, if I'd been paying attention, I would have just copied the circle as well. Not the circle, but the sphere. And we can still do that here. But let's finish this part. Okay, so shift right click. Go to, what am I looking for? Multi-cut. Control middle mouse click. Control middle mouse click. And actually, here, let me show you another tool here. So if you go to shift right click, you go to multi-cut, but instead of clicking multi-cut, click the option box. You get this tool settings here. Now mine's docked here. Yours might just be a floating window. Doesn't really matter. And it's actually the wrong tool settings. So let's hit Q, shift right click, multi-cut, go in the options. There we go. If you turn on edge flow and then control middle mouse click, you notice how it just scales it out for you. This time it scaled it in, so that's not what we want, but we can just scale this out to where it matches. And this one didn't quite go as far. So again, shift right click, multi-cut, because that setting is still on. Control middle mouse click, control middle mouse, control middle mouse, control middle mouse. Grab this one again. It wants to scale in, just scale it out. Okay, and all of them just adjust as needed. Something like that. Okay, so we just got the general shape. We're not worried about this slot here just yet. We will get to that. Now, again, let's just go ahead and make a new sphere. Grab your move tool, drag it up, scale it down to about the size you need it to be. And we know that it's got 20 subdivisions on the axis. Go to channel box, go to polysphere 1, and 20 on the axis is what we want. But over here, let's try 8 because it's a lot smaller. So we'll do 8 subdivisions there, and maybe I want this edge loop here to be a little high here. So I'll move that up. Go to face mode and delete the bottom here. Okay. And I don't know, let me go in the bishop here, go to edge. Double click this one. Let's make it a little bit smaller, something like that. Then go to object mode. Select both of these, shift right click and combine. Then edge mode, double click, shift double click, and bridge. And if you get green faces or the object turns green, it just means it got disconnected from its shader for whatever reason. So just right click, go to object mode, and then right click again, go to assign existing material. And I'm just going to put Lambert 1 back on there, and that fixes that for you. So if I go to edge mode now, just double click this one. Let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and bevel that edge. And it looks actually pretty good right there. Let's see what else needs beveling. Double click this one and this one, shift right click, bevel edge, and lower the fraction. Okay, everything else should be done. If we hit 3, actually looks pretty good. Again, my pivot point is off, so go underneath, hold D and V and middle mouse drag till it snaps exactly where you want it. Okay, so there we go. Now we need to cut in this slot here. Now, if we were trying to model this by hand, it'd be kind of difficult and annoying, and you'd never get the surface to be nicely round and smooth. So we're just going to use a Boolean operation and clean it up. So we're going to get a cube, And a Boolean operation just basically uses one object to cut a shape out of another object. So let's get the cube, move this up, oops, move this up to here. I'm going to make it skinny on this axis, the x-axis. I'm going to try to make it about as skinny as that slot in the image. I'm going to move this over, maybe make it shorter. Okay, then get your scale, rotate, and move it so it is more or less at the same orientation. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect, honestly. You can maybe something like that. Let's go with that. Make sure it's not touching the sphere on the top here, because you don't want to chop a chunk out of that. And then make sure it goes through all the way like that. All right. So Booleans, we're going to select the bishop because that's what we want to cut. And we're going to shift select the cube. Now the Booleans are under mesh Booleans, and you can have the different types of Boolean operation. So the one we want is difference A minus B. The other way you can get it is under modeling toolkit and Boolean, and here you don't have the options. You just click it and it's going to use one of those as default, and the one it's going to use is the one we want, which is difference A minus B. If it's not the one you want, you can always switch it out. But right now it's using that one as the D. You can see the icon is the same there. So whatever gets selected first is what gets cut. And since the pawn was selected first, it was cut. You can see the cube right there. It's wireframe, but you can select it and move it. And you can see that that Boolean operation updates real time because there's still a connection. But that looks like good enough for me. So what I'm going to do is just click on the pawn and delete history. And oh, did I not? There we go. You want to select the one that is here. Select the one that actually has a cutout. There's actually two of them on top of each other there, and I think I selected the wrong one. See, that one has been not cut, and then polysurface 1 is the one that's actually been cut. Delete history on that one, and it will now be the remaining one, and that operation is now completed, and that box is gone. So we have our slot here, but on its own like this, if I smooth it, I'm going to get some really bad geometry like this. And the reason for that is because we have a bunch of n-gons, and n-gon is a polygon with more than 4 sides. We got an n-gon there. That might not be an n-gon, and then we got an n-gon here. And then we have this an n-gon, this an n-gon, right? There's a bunch of them here. So we just got to clean that up. Oh, this is a big n-gon right here that we need to deal with. Okay, so you gotta be careful when you use Booleans because they do require you to clean up the mess that they make. Okay, so the easy way to do this is just to merge points together. So for example, if I go to vertex, and I'm going to merge this point down to here and this point over here just to get rid of that little triangle and get rid of this n-gon right here. So if we get the, what do they call this tool here? This is the target weld tool. We can just click on it there, or we can shift right click, go to merge vertices, which will open a sub menu, and click on target weld tool. Okay, now with the target weld tool, if there were other vertices already selected, they get merged too. So you got to be careful. Just click outside the object. Just click once with the left mouse button to clear the selection if there is one. Then click and drag. You see that there's a line telling me that it's going to go from where I started to where I end right there. Then click this one, drag it there. Okay, so we got a triangle there, but that n-gon is now gone. So we can deal with triangles, but n-gons we got to get rid of. This one, click and drag this here, and then click and drag this here. We have an n-gon here, this one here, so I'm just going to click and drag this there. Okay, let's see, any other n-gons? Yep, same. It's basically symmetrical, so whatever's on one side is going to be on the other. So let's drag this one here. Oh, no, not what I want to do. Let's drag this one here and this one here. Okay, let's drag this one here and this one here. And did I get them all? And you might have to zoom in close because sometimes it's a small cluster of vertices that you can't tell very easily. Okay, so now we have this n-gon here and its matching partner on this side. These are easy to fix. All we got to do is just shift right click, go to multi-cut. I'm going to cut from this corner, and when I cut, I want to cut from this point. Now I could just click on it if it's red, but the easy way to do it, because it's very easy to actually miss, where you're not cutting on the point, but you're cutting slightly off to the side, which is going to just mess up your geometry. I'm going to start on this edge. See how I'm clicking on the edge, and if I move up and down, it's going to slide along the edge. And if I go all the way to the corner, it turns to a yellow dot, which means it's in the corner. And again, click and drag down and right click. Oh, you know what? We have to turn off. Let's go back in the tool settings. If you don't have it, it's this little arrow, hammer here. Just turn off edge flow on the multi-cut tool. So again, click and drag on an edge to the corner. Click and drag on this edge to the corner, then right click. Click and drag down to here. Click and drag down to here, right click. Let's go around the other side. Click and drag. Nope. And click and drag. And then click and drag. Click and drag. Okay, and what that does is it turns this into a quad, quad, and quad. So instead of one big U-shaped n-gon, it has four-sided faces there. Now, if I smooth it, it's still not great. Again, the n-gons on the inside we haven't dealt with. So what we need to do is basically just, because it is symmetrical, whatever point is here, it's going to have a matching point over there. Now, you used to be able to just connect component. Oh, there we go. Connect components should work. If it doesn't, all you got to do is go to multi-cut, cut from there to here, right? Same thing. But if sometimes connect components does, if you select that one and select the matching one on the other side, shift right click, go to connect components, it should just connect them. But sometimes it doesn't work very well. Oh, actually, what did I do here? You know what? I might have done it wrong. Oh no, that's correct. Where are we? Connect components. Now I have a point here. I think I merged them differently on this side. So now I have points. Let me just see. This point here. Yeah. Okay. So I merged them. I think I merged this up one. Oh, that's fine. I will. Let me just see. Oh no, I'm going at an angle. My fault. So let's go to edge, click on this one, click on this. I'm just going to control backspace. And really what I should have done was vertex this one to this one. Yep. And then done a connect components. This one to this one. I'm just going to hit G, which will repeat the last thing I did. Select these two, hit G. Select these two, hit G, right? These two, G. These two, G. This one and this one, G, right? So hitting G just repeats what you last did. There to there, hit G. There to there, hit G. And then for here, instead of connecting this one and this one, right? If I do that, you got to have this really, really small triangle here, which is not really nice. What I'm going to do is shift right click, go to multi-cut, and then control and middle mouse click, which is going to do exactly 50% cut. And then from there, just connect here with the multi-cut. Where are we here? There we go. So here to here, and right click to end the multi-cut. Okay, so those n-gons on the inside are gone, but let's see if we smooth, it's better, but it's not great yet, and that's because we need to bevel the inside, the edges here. So if we go to edge and just double click and see how far it goes, shift and click or double click. I'm just going to keep shift double clicking as I work my way around, and also on this side, shift double click. Just shift double clicking all the way around. There we go. And I'm just going to hit 4 to look around, make sure I didn't select stuff I didn't mean to, which I don't think I did. So hit 6 and shift right click, bevel edge, 2 segments. And maybe I increase the fraction a little bit. I don't want it to be too sharp. So something like that. Go to object mode, hit 3 and look at it. And that actually looks pretty good. Okay, so that is your bishop. Okay, Booleans, not always the best way to go, but there's times where they do have an advantage over trying to just freehand that. Okay, so if we look at it, we got faceting. So let's go ahead, mesh display, soften edge, or put it on the toolbar, or the other way is just shift right click and go to soften harden edges and soften edge. That's the other way to do it. Hit W. Okay, we did move the pivot point. Let's go in the channel box. We got a bunch of history, so let's delete history. And if there's a need, then you can freeze transformations. And let's double click here, call this bishop. Okay, so you can either just double click there or just click in here and rename something. Either way works. Okay, so there is our bishop. Okay, so really we're down to one final piece. And let's go ahead, select all of these. Let's click here to unlock the image. Shift click on that. Slide this over. And we want to center the knight. And I'm centering the base because obviously the head is not a symmetrical thing. I'm centering the base to the world here as close as I can. Let's just go ahead and duplicate the bishops. This is the closest. Bunch of 0 in here. Okay. And then just go in here, go to face mode, delete everything down to here. Now you'll see this one is quite a different shape, so maybe I'll go into edge mode. Maybe I'll double click this one, control backspace. Let's go to vertex. I'm going to select all of these here, move them up, and then get my scale tool and scale them out so they closer resemble this closer. Go to edge mode, double click this one, scale it out. And again, this is just minor, but we'll just go ahead and adjust it a little bit. Okay, and maybe shift right click, multi-cut, control middle mouse click, double click that one, and then scale it in a little curve in there. Okay, maybe vertex mode. Take these two and just move them up here. Okay, so now if I go on this view, just hit space to enlarge it. I'm going to get rid of these two rows. So if we click one and shift double click the one next to it, it's going to select all the way around. And let's do, yeah, let's just get rid of that top row. Actually, you know what? Sorry, let's do both. So click, shift, double click. So then we have this one, which I'm going to maybe move up just a bit. Yeah. And scale tool, then shift scale from the center. Maybe that much. Then shift scale again to about there. Then shift right click, go to fill hole. Go to face mode, click on the face, shift right click, go to poke face. And edge mode. Select every second edge. Control backspace just to get rid of them. Okay, so the way we're going to build the knight is basically we're just going to build the horse part of it and just sit it on top of the base here, just like we did with the cross on the king. You know what? For the king, actually what I forgot to do, let's select this, shift right click, multi-cut. Let's hold control and middle mouse click this way, middle mouse click that way. That's just going to hold the shapes better. So it's not such a big span. And if you wanted to, you could even middle mouse click again on either side of that center line. But you know, you don't have to. Okay, so anyway, done there. Okay, so we're going to keep this horse head simple. I don't want to get it too over complex. So this is where we are. So we have that. So now we're just going to start with a cube. We're just going to approximate the head, but we don't need to make it a super detailed, realistic head. Let's shorten it like this on the y-axis. And we're going to rotate it and move it in the sort of orientation of the horse head. What do we want to be, if you're going to drag from the middle, do it in the front view, because if you do it in the 3D view, it's going to move in 3 axes, so it's not going to be centered anymore. Here, it just moves in the X and Y, no Z. But if you do it this way, it's going to move in the Z as well. So you can see that my Z is still 0 as I'm moving it from the middle in the front view. But if I move from the middle in this one, you see that I've now got Z translate values, and I don't want that. I need the Z translate to always be 0. So just keep that in mind. Okay, I'm also going to shrink it down this way on the Z axis, right? Because a horse head is kind of a long, narrow head. Okay, so Now I'm just positioning this something like that. Go into vertex, and I'm going to drag a selection over these points because there are 2 points. If I just click on a point in here, it's only going to select one of those points, as you can see. And now I'm going to mess this up. So I'm going to drag a selection here. I'm going to put this one right here in front of the ears, take this corner, drag it to the where the jaw kind of is a corner there. Take this one to about here in front of the nostrils. Take this one, I don't know, to about maybe here, the point of the chin. In fact, let's move this one a little bit back over the nostrils like that. Okay, so easy enough. Now, the thing we want to do here is, since the head is symmetrical, it's the same on both sides. No point us modeling both sides. We can just model half of it. So if I get my multi-cut and control in this view, control middle mouse click, it's going to split it in the middle, and I'm going to go to face mode, and I'm going to delete face. And let's delete this half. Okay, so we've deleted half. And then what we want to do is go to object mode and make sure it's selected. Go to edit, duplicate special, go in the options. And let me just reset the settings, right? We want an instance, not a copy. A copy just makes an exact duplicate of it, and they're sort of separate objects. But an instance, it acts like a copy, but when you do something to the original one, you get the same changes happening in the copy. Okay. And then the other thing I want to change here is just to put a scale -1 in the X, right? These columns are X, Y, and Z. Let's translate, rotate, and scale. In the scale Z, I want a -1, and I'm going to duplicate special. Okay, so we have that. So whatever we do on one side, so if I right click, go to vertex and grab this, you can see that it's happening on the other side. Okay, so let's grab this face and shift and drag it forward. Okay, now you'll see that my thick line stops here, and that's because if I move this out of the way, we have a face here that gets made, and you don't want those faces on the inner side here. Okay, so just be aware of that. I'm going to undo here and go to face, hit 4 so I can see it, and then select that face in there and hit delete. So, and then hit 6 to go back to shaded. And then we're just going to go to vertex again, and we're going to move this to here, take this one, move it to here. We know that the chin is narrower than the nostrils, so I'm going to take these two and just slide them over, and maybe a little bit on this one. And then we know that the jawline is also quite a wide part of the head, so I'm going to move this out like this. Okay, so we are sort of wide here where the jaw is, right? That's like the corner of the jaw. And then we get narrow. The bottom lips are usually narrower than the nostril area. Okay, so shift right click, multi-cut. And we want to split it right in here so that I can grab these points and move them up to form this dip right here before the chin. Okay, and then this one here can sort of come up a little bit. Okay, and probably we want to take this in a bit. So this one here is sort of around the nostrils. So it's going to be a little wider. Now we want to just click on the one, move it out a little bit. Okay, and then after the nostrils going towards the head, it thins out again. Okay. And then we want to cut one that's in line with the eyeball here. So shift right click, go to multi-cut and control, and left mouse click there. And we know that the eyes, you know what, actually, let me pull up an image of a horse so we can see it here. So anytime you model something, it's always good to have a, some photo reference or a drawing or whatever. So we know that if we look at this horse, where the snout is, the nostrils are the widest. You see the bottom lip is narrower. And then it sort of narrows down in the bridge of the nose here, then it gets wider at the eyes, then it tapers in a little bit, and it's a little less wide at the ears. Okay, so that's what we're going to try to go for without getting, again, too detailed here. So let's get this out of the way. And so let's
actually take this and just move it in more. I think our nostrils are a little too wide, so let's move that in and move this in. Yeah, something like that. So this, oh, actually, this is where the eyes are. So sorry, let's bring that back. Just the top, take the top one and move it out. Now we're going to have to split here. So multi-cut and split in the middle here so that we can take this one and move it in. Okay, now what I'm going to do is start to take these, maybe these four, and just move them down this way. All right, because we want to make that curve around the, it's not just a flat plane on the top of a horse head. So let's do the same on the bottom here. Take this, oops, this, and move this up. Okay, still very low resolution, but we should be able to get what we need. So I'll go to vertex, and I'm just going to move this up just to have a little bump where that eye is. Okay, and shift right click, multi-cut. I'm just gonna, let's split in the middle right here, maybe right through the mouth. Grab this, and let's pull this out here. And maybe a little bit, actually, this is under the eyeball, so let's go in here. But we can take this out a little bit. Maybe take this and punch that out. Okay. Then we can actually go to vertex mode, take this one and move it back here. Maybe take this one vertex here and slide it forward a little bit. Take this one and do the same. Okay, take these and just get them to line up better with the shape of that jaw. Okay, shift right click, multi-cut. That's not multi-cut. And just cut in here. Okay, so we're just going to refine the shape a little bit as we go. Let's bring this in. Okay. Maybe this one here, we just bring it out. Just to round out that mouth area. And this one, let's just take this one and move that to here. Take this one and move it here. And then this one. Okay, I'm using both of these views to do my work because it just makes it convenient. Okay, shift right click, multi-cut. Let's split here. This lower section. Okay. And again, this, just get that nice jaw shape. Right here, maybe pull these out. Right, because the jaw muscles are in there. Okay. Maybe take this and take it in this way. Okay, anytime I cut in, I don't want any flat spots. So you see that's a flat spot there. So I just needed to round things out like that. Okay, so what do we have now? Let's do the same thing again, multi-cut, but this time we'll cut up here and start defining the upper part of the mouth. So maybe I take this and move it back a little bit. And this. Okay, what I might need to do, so I want to define this curve of the mouth here. So if I, for example, get my multi-cut and I just start here and cut back to here, then I can cut to the middle of a face just like that. Then cut this way, cut to the middle of the face here, then just start to trace the mouth back out to here and hit enter. So you can see what we just did there. I don't know why there's a point right there. Let me, if you
get a point, just hit Q or something and hit Control. Oh, just hit backspace on it and it'll disappear. I don't know why that one came in there. Doesn't matter. Except now we've created this Ngon and this Ngon. But those are easily fixed by simply shift right click, go to multi-cut, cut from this corner to that corner, this corner to that corner. Now what we have is a four-sided, 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 four-sided. Okay, face mode. We're just going to select all of these faces here and delete them. And you can see how that just gives us the horse mouth right there. Okay, so let's put this there. Right where the eyeball is, I'm going to pull it out and then maybe pull this way. Maybe take this way. Okay. And we could probably split it here. So shift right click, multi-cut, split this way. Okay, and again, now we've created a bunch of flat spots. So I'm just going to select all of this and move it up. Okay, just to again round that out some. And I can actually take this and just move that back this way. Okay, because the lips are going to be rounded. Like, remember, there's teeth in there that they're in the shape of a C or a U. So the front of the mouth and the top and bottom mouth areas really need to follow that contour. So like there and there. And let's maybe pull this down a little bit. Take this, move it down, move this down. Okay. Maybe let's move this back and let's move this here. All right, we're just trying to approximate the mouth without trying to go too crazy with it. Let's just shape it a little bit. There we go. Let's move this in. And slide this down. Okay. That looks pretty good. Maybe here, I'm just going to move this in here because there's a nostril up there. So if I go into object mode and hit 3 to smooth it, it actually kind of looks like a horse. So honestly, we could just seal off the mouth and then put some ears on and then do the neck and call it good. So if you wanted to, this could be a good place to, start to stop for the head. But let's go ahead and let's see. Let me move this out here. And maybe move these in. Let's go in some more. Just so those lips go under and in there. Okay. Just making adjustments as I see the need. Yeah, that's fine. And I'm just going to take the edges that are on the side, so these, and just shift and extrude them to the center. Now, they're all jagged. When they get to the center, they're going to overlap each other, right, as you can see. So what I do is get my scale tool, and on this axis here, which is the Z-axis, the blue one, if I scale that until it flattens out, and then hold X, well, get my move tool, hold X and drag until it stops, it's going to stop exactly at the center line of the head. And X is just grid snapping, so the grid line is right here, so it snaps to that X value. I'm sorry, Z value, which is actually 0. Okay, so Now I need to shift right click, multi-cut. I'm going to just split right here. And again, what I'm going to do is shift right click, go to, actually be in vertex mode. Shift right click, go to merge vertices, target weld tool. Click on this one, and can I do that? I guess not. Well, let's move it there first. So get your move tool, W, and hold V, and then click in the middle and drag it, and it'll just automatically jump there. Click on this one and start dragging until it gets where you want it. Select these two and these two. Shift right click, merge vertices, merge vertices. As you can see, they merge. Let's do the same up here. Click it with the move tool, W, hold down V for point snapping, and it'll snap to that one. Hold down again. Same thing here. Select that one, hold down V, drag it until it snaps to that one. Then you need to select these two, select these two. So just because they snap together doesn't mean they merge. There's still 2 points basically just sitting on top of each other. And then if you select them, shift right click, merge vertices, it'll actually seal that off. Okay. And then I guess shift right click, multi-cut. We can cut from here to the middle of this face, so in line with that corner, and just keep going down and around. Cut to about here in line with that corner. And here, I'm trying to keep this more or less the same width from the edge all the way around. Hit enter. Then we just, because this is now an N-gon, we need to cut from here to here and cut from here to here. Okay, so that's just basically the thickness of the lip. Then we can take all these, just hold tab and go ahead and select all of these. Control E, grab the blue arrow and drag it downward. And you can see what that's doing. Drag it as far in as you want. Except it's created these faces here that we don't want. So hit Q to get out of the extrude tool. Click all the way around here. And then just hit delete. So if we go to object mode and hit 3, you can see now we have the inside of the horse's mouth. Okay, that's just a little detail thing. That's about as much as I'm going to do with that. And then, of course, if you want, just because this is very sharp here, if we multi-cut and to the control middle mouse and control middle mouse, right, we can add some resolution there so that we can go into vertex mode and start to shape things here a little bit better. Oops. Maybe let's move this. Grab this and just round that out. And here as well, just pull this out here. Okay, and this chin is still very pointy. So actually, what I'm going to do is just double click it. Oops, it wasn't double click. Double click, shift right click, bevel edge. And I'm going to make the fraction pretty big. Just going to give me a little bit more geometry in there. And that actually allows me to grab this and just slide it down just to make some space. Grab this edge here where, well, I can grab this one and move it down here. Grab this one and move it up just to spread them out. Grab this, just getting some edge flow looking good. We can do the bevel thing again for here and here. Shift right click, bevel edge, increase that fraction. And grab this. These two, get your move tool, slide them down. Okay. Oh, we got an N-gon here, but we'll fix that in a sec. Move this here. All right, so I like to spread out my geometry so it's not all bunched up, because that could create a bumpy surface where you want smoothness. Okay. maybe grab these and just spread these out as well. Yeah, that'll work. Grab this, slide this. And maybe take this one. Okay. And we could do the same here with this. Just double click, shift right click bevel edge. So bevel's actually kind of useful in what they can be used for. So if we take this corner, come on, here, W, and slide that down a little bit. Sometimes you got to get closer to be able to select. Okay. Okay, so I'll go inside the mouth just to work on those parts as well. Let's move this back a little bit. Vertex, I go back and forth between vertex and edge, whatever is more convenient for the situation. So this can come over here. Okay. See what that looks like. Smooth. That's actually pretty good. This is more than good enough as far as the shape of the front of the horse. Doesn't really need to be any more than this. Just gonna give him a little lip there. Let's see. There we go. But if you wanted to put it in the nostrils, let's see what's the easiest way here. We could grab these three faces, Control E, and then click on offset and drag to the right. If it's way too sensitive like that, then just hold Control and click on it. It's still kind of sensitive, but not nearly as bad. That's just gonna do an inset right there. Now that's obviously too wide for a nostril, but if we just move these a little closer to each other, like this. So we're just going to move things around here till we get it more or less kind of roundish, nostrilish shape. And, you don't have to get too crazy with this. Just want to hint at a nostril, maybe something like that. So what we can do is just select these three faces, move tool, scale, shift drag them in to extrude and, scale it down. Maybe move it back and up a little bit. Take the bottom edges of it and slide that in. You kind of have an overhang on the top. Although now I'm looking at horse pictures, actually the overhang is on the bottom. So if we see that, you can see the bottom of the nostril and the top of the nostril is further inward. Okay. So, and again, this is why you need reference, right? Because most people can't just tell you straight away what a horse looks like every detail. So I'm just gonna select this face, move that in along with this edge here. Yeah, okay, here we go. I think this will look better. Take this one. Okay, so the upper edge of the nostril I want to be closer to the center line. Let's grab this. Bring it back a little bit. And bring this up. Bring this up. And bring this down. Just try to get that nostril-like shape. All right, because if you look, it sort of has this little bump out here. So that's what we're going to try to get here. And this part comes out, then it starts to go back towards the center, this edge. Okay. Okay, so we're working at a pretty low resolution here, so this can come in. So sometimes you got to make really big moves to get the, in terms of moving the geometry, you got to move it quite a bit to get the shape you want. Now I'm going to take this and just move it here. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm just going to extrude this inward. Let's see what we get. It's kind of a small nostril for a horse. So let's go ahead back into face mode here. I'm going to select the 3 there. If I shift right click, actually, if I control right click, go to grow selection and grow, and then hit G, it's going to grow again. And if I get my scale tool, I can just scale this up and then move it to make that nostril a little bit bigger. This is a very simplified horse head, because we're not trying to get a photorealistic horse. We just want it to be good enough for this chess set. That's a little better. Still actually could be bigger. So I'm just going to maybe grab these and pull them forward. Maybe grab this. If I hit Q, that'll get rid of the move gizmo so it's not in the way. Move this forward. Okay. Yeah, there we go. I think I'm okay with that. Maybe I will take this one, and this one, and move them this way along with this. Yeah, good enough. Okay, so honestly, you just get it to where it looks okay and go with that. Yeah, let me move this. Okay, I'm gonna stop filling with the nose. And let's think about eyeballs. And also the same thing. This time I'm gonna select these 4. Control E. Hold Control and click on offset and drag. And if you want, you can hit this circularize tool right here. If you click on it, it's just going to turn that into a circle. Now, the horse eye is not a perfect circle, but it gives us a good starting point. So we can just rotate it or whatever we got to do, shrink it down. Right, and maybe squash it this way to give it a more oval eye-like shape. Okay, then scale tool, hold shift and scale. And we're going to push this in. Maybe I take these edges and just rotate them like that. So we have this little eyelid hangover thing. And actually, they also rotate forward like this, because it has to be able to see forward, of course. Smooth it out and see what we get. Yeah, there we go. That's looking like an eye, a very, very, very simple eye, but an eye nonetheless. So multi-cut, and I'm just going to cut in here just to give me a little bit more geometry to move around here to create that ridge above the eyes. Let's spread some of these out. Okay. Okay, and then hold shift and move tool to drag backward. And maybe scale in a little bit. And honestly, I would say that's probably good enough. Maybe I'll take this forward edge here, this little one in between here. Come on. That one. And just maybe include this one. Just move it forward a little bit. Maybe do the same with the back one. Just to give it more eye shape. Yeah, that's good enough for me. Okay. I'm going to call that good. As soon as I say that, I see something I could fix. Just move this up. All right. Now it's good. Okay. Now, the rest of the neck area is actually very simple. What I'm going to do is just delete, let's say, this, and one more right here. Okay. And I'm going to go into edge mode. So edge, I'm going to take this one right here. And I'm just going to hold shift and drag it. So we can extrude edges just like faces. I'm going to, let's do it in this view. Drag to here, then hold shift again. Nope, it's got to be in edge mode, sorry. So in edge mode, W, hold shift, drag it to about here where we start to turn that way. Shift again and drag it to about here. Shift again and drag it to about here. Okay, so we're just following that head shape without putting too much geometry in there. Then I'm going to select this one. This one I'm going to follow to about this corner. So shift and drag it out, and this will line up with that, right? And then shift and drag this down. Okay, so very low resolution. And then I might just in here, yeah, that's the one. Pull this way. I actually got these the wrong way. This one should be in front. Okay. Right. And let's level these here and this one. In fact, let's go ahead and take this one all the way down to about here. And I'm flatten these out. Okay. And then I'm just going to bridge between. So go to edge, select that edge, shift select this one, shift right click and go to bridge. Okay, we're just going to bridge to close this off. And then let's see here. Maybe I take this one and W. And what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to line this up a little better with the head here first before I do anything else. Okay. Grab that one. So this one right here, shift and drag it. And again, I'm going to shift drag to the same level as here. So when I merge things, everything lines up. So you kind of have to keep that in mind. Maybe pull it out to about the middle area here. And knowing that this is going to represent an edge loop that rides right across here. But this one wants to come out, select both of these, should bring them outsiders. Because even though we have only one image of this chess piece, you know, we have to assume that it widens out this way. Let me actually see. If we can find images of a chess knight. All right, we're going to assume it's not just flat. We have to assume, so this is the same guy here, but he's still only facing sideways. But if we look at some of these, you can see that they've got width side to side as well, not just front to back. So we're going to assume that. Here we go. Here's a good example here. You can see that it widens that way. That's actually a really nice piece. So we're just going to assume that and put that in. So I'm going to, go out this way. And then in edge mode, hold shift. Oops, let's do it here. Shift and drag down. Right, so then this will be about as wide as it gets. And we can play with that later just to see, what we want it to look like. So now this gives us, we can select this edge here and this one and shift right click and bridge. And then this one and this one and just hit G. Okay, so now we're starting to close in that volume. We could do the same here. This 2, G, this G. Then we can get our multi-cut and control and middle mouse click. That's going to split it right in the middle. And we can now start pulling this out this way. Maybe spread this out. Maybe start to spread this out. Let's pull this one back. Something like that. And again, shift right click, multi-cut, control and middle mouse. Let's pull this out. Pull this out. Okay, maybe do another one. Shift right click, multi-cut, split this one. And we're just trying to round things out. So maybe move this one forward a little bit. And don't worry about the jaggedness here. We can flatten that out later. And same here, right? Now the reason that this gizmo is at an angle is because if you remember, we started with a cube that we rotated. So now it's sort of stuck in that rotation orientation. Easy way to fix that is go to object mode, select it, and just do a freeze transformations on it. And you get an error because we have an instance. So delete the instance and then do a freeze transformations. You see now we're straight up and down. And then to repeat the instance is Control Shift D. That'll just make a new instance. So now what we can do is go to vertex, select all of these, get our scale, and scale on the Y. It flattens them out. Select these, scale on the Y. See, that now looks a lot more organized. And for here, we can actually select this one and this one in vertex mode. Shift right click, go to merge vertices and merge to center. So it's just going to merge them in the point between them. Okay. All right, so still very simple. So where do we go from here? So let's see. So I guess we can start to refine here. So if we shift right click, multi-cut and split there. And again, we could just take that edge loop, double click it, get our scale and scale it flat. And then we can sort of shape it how we want. You know, if you want more of an S-shaped vertex, maybe this come out more, right? So something like that. So now we just got to seal up some of what's going on in here. Now, the jawline, there's kind of a pretty well-defined ridge there. So what I'm going to do for that, here, let's just pull these down to match the jawline better. Okay. And this could probably come forward like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just shift right click multi-cut. I'm going to cut kind of real close here and then here. Then I'm going to take my target weld, click on this one and drag it. Maybe. Let's try that again. Sometimes target weld doesn't do what I want it to do, so like right now. So if that's the case, just hit W, hold down V, and just snap this there. Then select them both and shift right click merge, merge to center. So I'm just going to move this here. Okay, what that's going to do, it's going to give me some nice separation between the jaw and the neck. So if I push this in, you can see how we're now creating this bump or line under the jaw. And I'll show you once I smooth it. Let me just clean up these edges so they line up. Might be easier to do it here. You know, line things up. Maybe bring this back. So if I smooth it, you kind of see that there's a crease there, which is what I want. And I think here, as we get to the neck, I think it starts to get a little thinner, a little narrower back here, I think. Okay. So then to continue that, and I think it only continues till about here, that ridge actually gets less and less and sort of fades out by the time it gets here. I want to select this edge, this one, and this one, right? Shift and drag with the move tool just to make this little thin area here, pull it in, and then take these two verts, this one and this one, shift right click, merge vertices, merge to center. Okay. Let's go this way on here. But for this one, I'm gonna get my target weld and just merge it. Oops, wrong one. Let's try that again. So yeah, sometimes that instance gets in the way. So vertex mode, click, and again, I'm not sure what is going on with this. So just W, hold V, and snap it. So that's gonna create a triangle there. Or, you know what? Let's do it another way. Let's undo that. I'm gonna just start to pull it back level so that the depth of the crease. So do the same here. Pull this back almost level, and this one pretty level, so that the depth of that crease decreases over time. Okay. Let's move this one in. Maybe move this one a little bit. And then what we can do is actually just multi-cut and split this right here. Maybe move it up a little bit. And basically these two, I'm going to shift and drag to extrude. Going to select these two, shift right click, merge to center. Grab this one. There. Hold V and just drag it to that one. Select them both, merge. Okay, so that'll give us a little bit more geometry there to play with. Let's check it. Okay, so we could actually go deeper here. Let's take these two, move them down, move them in. Let's really accentuate that jawline. Okay. So let's go here. There we go. That looks pretty good. Okay. Now this line has to go somewhere. We'll have it cut there, this one there. Let's do those first two. So multi-cut, shift right click. I'm going to cut one here and one here. And since I have that new geometry, I could just take these and move them out to follow the contour of the head. Okay. And then just to be fast, I'm going to select these four and do a bridge. And then get multi-cut and control middle mouse click to split it. Take that and widen it for the back of the head. And that very conveniently now can bridge into here. And actually looks like we'll need another edge loop to come through here. So that's fine. We can, in vertex mode, just move this one back. And we could actually take these and just slide them down a little bit to make some space. Multi-cut, middle mouse click with control there. Take this and, bring that back for the back of the head. Bring that out, I guess. And so we'll have to then split, right? So you're always thinking about edge loops going the whole way through a mesh, or finding a way to terminate them so they don't just stop in the middle of the mesh. So right there, there, and shift right click, bridge. Okay, so that's going to close that off. So we're getting this area closed off. So now we got this edge loop that's got to probably come through here. So what I'm going to do is just move this one down. Let's make some space here. Oops. Then I can multi-cut here. Grab these and again work the shape of the head into that. Then I can, and I prefer to do where I can just bridge these, bridge and then multi-cut, split, right? And then let's widen this here, let's widen this. So W, hold down V, snap that one there, W, hold down V, and drag that one there. Select that, and merge vertices. Okay, so that closes that up. Okay. Let's just work on this shape some more. So let's see what we got. Okay, that actually looks pretty good to me. Okay, we're going to put the mane in. We still got to do the ears. But so far, so good. Really can't complain. I'm actually kind of happy with that. Let's get some geometry down over here just to help hold some of that detail. Okay. Actually, see if we can add the look of some eye bags. So I'm going to take these two, just push them in there like that, just to give some geometry there, and maybe even multi-cut this. And actually, let's use that tool again. So we go on the tool options, switch to multi-cut. We should get edge flow. Control middle mouse click. Hopefully that did something. It kind of did. I'm going to turn off edge flow because I don't want it to stay on. And let's just give him some bags under his eyes a little bit there. And sometimes it's just easier to work in the side view. And I think I might just bring some of this back here. We could just multi-cut something through here. Actually, let's Let's turn on edge flow again for this cut and then turn it off. Hopefully it actually did what I needed. Yeah, it kind of did. So it helped with the shape there. This one. Yep. Okay. All right. I'm okay with that. Okay, let's see what we got. Yeah, there you go. Why not? Okay, so we're almost there. We are almost there. Let's cap off the bottom here. So if I just want to see, because this base is in the way, so I can isolate the stuff I want to see. So if I select what I want and hit Control and 1, you see that everything else disappears. It's not deleted. It's just hidden. So now I can work on this without anything else in the way. So I can multi-cut. So that one's going to cut through to here. Multi-cut again for that one. And maybe one here for that one. Okay, so, I mean, not multi-cut, but bridge. They can bridge over. Wait, let's see. Let's bridge these two first. And then these are both four-sided. So just double-click, shift-right-click, fill hole. Double-click, shift-right-click, fill hole. Okay, so that caps that off. So this is what we have now. Okay. I'm going to shift right. Let's multi-cut again. Again, I'm going to use edge flow. I'm going to split this, control middle mouse, and maybe here, control middle mouse there, just to give me more resolution. And let's go this way, and maybe another multi-cut, control middle mouse, and maybe one here. Okay. And you can see there's this little crease in the image on the night, and we're kind of getting that. I kind of didn't realize I was doing that, but you know, look at that. Kind of works. It's kind of similar. Okay, you know, I'm good with this. I'm pretty happy with this. How it's turning out. Okay, so that looks like the head of a horse with no ears and no mane right now. So what we're gonna do for the ears. So the ears, I go into face mode. Oops. Here, I'm gonna hit Control 1 in this view to make everything come back. So Control 1 just toggles it back and forth. You can hide stuff and also bring it back. Let me just adjust here. So for the ears, they start in this area somewhere. So if I go to face mode, let's see. If I select, say, these 4. Yeah, it's about fine. Control E, hold Control, click on offset, drag to the right. Okay, and then grab these bottom ones, let's move them up. This is just where the ear is going to come out of. Okay, so I'm going to do something like this because the ears got the whole section here. And maybe now if I go into face mode, if I, let's see, get my move tool, hold shift and extrude this up. Let's see what we get. We need to round out the back. So I'm just going to move this back this way. Oh, and you see what I did there? I moved it and it's across the line. So just hold X and grab the blue arrow and snap it back so it's on the center line. Let's grab
let's grab this and just move it back, right? So the ear goes inward. I think I had it backward. The ear goes inward like that. And let's grab the top verts here and just move the ears outward. Okay, so let's yeah, they tend to go out at an angle. I mean, they move around or whatever. They can sort of direct the ears, but let's have a slight outward angle. Why not? So actually what I'm going to do, because they widen and then they taper, I'm actually going to widen them like this. Maybe rotate a little bit. So they're not so thick. Okay, and then grab the faces on top again. And just do one more extrusion. W, shift and drag. And we're going to taper these down like this. And make sure we got a good, nice point. So I'll take the middle ones and just pull them out like that. Okay, so this center section should be pretty well inward like that. And we can, maybe I went too far outward, so let's go back this way and rotate them up. Maybe, yeah, there we go. Something like that. Okay, so that's a pretty low resolution ear right now. Let's move them forward a little bit. So multi-cut, and I'm just going to split. Edge flow still on. Let's see what it does. So if I split, they actually worked out nice. A split there. And that kind of went in when I wanted to go out. So I'm just going to grab these and just scale out a little bit. And here, I'm going to move this out. There we go. Spread these to the back of the ear so they're not bunched up too much in the front. Gonna cause hard edges that we probably don't want there. Okay. So something like that. Okay, I'm going to split them again. Multi-cut, split there, split there. And just to give me more detail, I'm going to go into face mode. And just hold tab and select Control E for extrude. Hold Control, go offset. Just enough. About there, maybe 0.05. Nope. 0.08. 0.08. Oh boy. Okay. Let's undo that. Oh, that's 0.01. I thought it was 0.1. So 0.005. No, 0.02. Going the wrong way. Or 0.015. Yeah, maybe something like that. And Control E, grab the blue arrow, just move it in a little bit. And then also do an offset. And here we got to be real careful. Maybe that. And just got to go in there, W. Clean up some bad geo here. Okay, let's grab this, move it up. You know, I think I need to. This up, and I'm just going to multi-cut one in here. There we go. And then over here, I might take these two, bring them up and forward. See what we get. Yeah, that'll work. That's good enough for me. Okay, now the main. It does this little weird up thing in the back. We actually have decent. So the main starts about way over here in the forehead. So what I'm going to do, it's a little trick I like to use. If I multi-cut, it's going to cut all the way around the head. And I might not want that. I might want a multi-cut that starts here and maybe goes down to about here somewhere. So what I can do is if I click in here, here, and here, and then end my multi-cut and just fix this corner right here. Oh, turn off edge flow. Fix this corner right here, and then, figure out where I want it to stop. Maybe here. So cut here to here to here, and that, and then fix the corner. Now if I do a multi-cut, it's only going to cut between there. So if I cut multi-cut there, let's do it here. And then I can now connect this. And up here I can connect that. Okay, so you can basically tell it where you want the multi-cut to be. So that it's not just cutting all the way around the horse head. Okay, so now if I click on this one here and double click the last one, it's going to select them all. Then if I Control E and grab the blue arrow and pull it out. So what's going to happen, unfortunately, is they sort of split from the center line, but that's easy to fix. Okay, so again, I'm just going to grab this instance and delete it just so I can work back here. I'm going to click on here. These are the inside faces. Shift double click this one and then hit delete. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to say click on this edge. Go shift double click, say this one. Then I'm going to get my scale tool. I'm going to scale them flat, right? I grab the Z-axis, grab that and scale to the right till they're flat. And then W and hold X for grid snapping, and they will snap to the center of the world. Okay, and just make sure that everything is centered. Hold X, and it looks like it is. So now if I go in object mode, Control Shift D, this should now be closed, and there shouldn't be those issues. If I hit 3 now, I don't think I made the main long enough, but that's okay. I can just start grabbing parts, maybe move this there. Let's go back to this side. Grab this and this, move it here. Move this one back down, right? So you can just bit by bit move it to where you need it to be. This can just come straight back. I'm not going to do the bumpiness of it. I'm going to keep this real simple. So here, this one goes out to here. And grab this edge and move it here, for example. Smooth it. All right, so there we have the main. Now, if you want, well, let's do this here and here. Okay, now if you want to sort of sharpen the edge that the main is coming from, right in here, if that's too soft, you can just go to edge mode, double click this, and it should select all that. Then just do a bevel edge. See how that looks? See, it's a little sharper if you like that look.
Okay, up here, I don't think I want to sharpen it too much. Just let it be a softer edge there. Now, to finish up, I'm just going to well, let's delete the instance, right? So now, if we're consider this pretty much where we want to end it, well, I can always adjust a little bit here and there just to get my surface a little smoother. But let's say we're happy with it and want to be done, right? You're not going to leave the instance. What you're going to do is just do a mirror. So get rid of the instance. Then we're going to do a mirror, which is this button right here, mirror geometry, or it's under mesh and mirror, or shift right click. Is it in here? It should be mirror right there. Go in the options. And mirror axis position, we're going to use the world because we are aligned to the world lines here. You want to merge border vertices. That means the edges along the center. When it makes the other half, it's going to merge the center. And you want a custom merge threshold. And I use about a 0.001 so that it doesn't merge too much stuff. Okay, and the mirror axis in this case is actually the Z. So I'm going to put that on Z and hit mirror. And that's your mirror. I'm going to look around and see if there's any thick lines along that center. It means it missed something. Like there in the mouth, as you can see. So why that is, let me see. Yep. So that means over here I had left a gap, so it didn't merge because that merge threshold is very small. So I'm going to undo. And I know that this point is not centered, so hit W, hold X, and drag it till it snaps to the center. So now if I do my merge again, it should merge that nicely. Okay, now that that's all one piece now, you can see what it looks like all merged together. I'm going to Control 1 to isolate it. And what I want to do is just merge the bottom edge here. So I'm just going to shift, double click all the way around here until it gets all of them, like right there. And then shift right click bevel edge. And that might be fine. I don't want it to be too sharp. There we go. Control 1 to get out of there. And now you can see that my knight is, so if I select both of those and hit 3 to smooth, if there's any gap, then I need to move the horse lower, but there isn't. So that should be good. Maybe I take this and just move it back a hair. There we go. Now, again, to combine these two, just select them both, shift right click and combine. Okay, if we go in the channel box, again, we got a bunch of history. Actually, before we do the history, mesh display, soften edge, or if you put it there or shift right click, go to soften harden edges and soften edge. Okay, that's what the normal's softened. And then what we want to do is delete the history. So delete history. And this is knight, right? Name that. So we got the pawn, rook, king, queen, bishop, and knight. Okay, so there we go. If we just click on him now, he's a whole piece. We hit 3, he smooths. And that actually looks pretty good. Okay, so that is all the pieces. As you can see, pretty well made. The next thing that we want, of course, will be the chessboard.